Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon. I'm the staff hearing officer, and I call the meeting of Wednesday, August 7th to order. Today we have 3 items on our agenda, and I haven't received any requests for continuances or withdrawals, so I will review them in the order that they appear on the agenda. Under announcements and appeals, I have no announcements, and we've had no appeals, so there's none there. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on today's agenda? No, seeing no one, we'll go to the first item, which is 2112 Santa Barbara Street. If the applicant would like to come up to the table. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the project site is 1.14 acres, and it's located at the corner of Santa Barbara Street and Padre Streets. It's comprised of 2 assessor parcel numbers. There's a smaller assessor parcel here off of Padre and a larger parcel that make up the 1.4 acres. The site is currently developed with 2 buildings that total 8,712 square feet, and there are 17 existing uncovered parking spaces on site. The project includes alterations to the larger of the 2 buildings here. The 6,000 square foot 2-story residence includes the removal of awnings, skylights, staircases, and an accessible ramp. And the alterations to the smaller building, which is approximately 1,800 square feet, is a 1-story building to be altered to create an additional dwelling unit and a 2-car garage. The applicant is also proposing 2 uncovered parking spaces to meet the parking requirements for the single-family residents. The 2 buildings and the site are listed on the city's list of potential historic resources as the Hodges House Summit Lighthouse. And according to a historic structures report that was prepared, this property may be eligible for designation in the future as a landmark. The discretionary applications required for this project are a performance standard permit to allow an additional dwelling unit on a 1-family residentially zoned lot, and a parking modification to provide 2 covered and 2 uncovered parking spaces instead of 4 covered parking spaces. If we go to the second site plan, next page. You can see the existing site plan with the 17 parking spaces that are out in front of the building, as well as the proposed site plan here. There will be 2 uncovered parking spaces along this portion of the driveway in parallel, similar to 16 and 17 on the existing site plan. This property was developed in 1921 with both parcels. You can see that the larger main residence existed in 1921, and there was I'm sorry, I should go into the existing. This building was comprised of a servant's cottage with an attached 3-car garage, and they had landscape gardens. The property has had several uses over the years, including a couple of churches, and the Fielding Institute was the last non-residential tenant. It is the property owner's desire to convert these 2 buildings back to residential use. Like I said previously, a historic structures report was prepared to consider the alterations to both the buildings and the site. The original report was accepted by the Historic Landmarks Commission on March 27th, and then an addendum went back to the HLC on July 17th, and that was accepted also, and that spoke to the project's impact. If they proposed a second 2-car garage, what impact would that have to the historic resources in the site? The first application before the show today is the performance standard permit to allow the additional dwelling unit on site. The municipal code allows for a second unit when there is ample lot area for 2 units on site. In the E1 zone, which these properties are zoned, you need 15,000 square feet per unit. And when you have a slope of 10 to 20%, you would need 1.5 times the minimum lot area, or 22,500 square feet per unit. This lot is approximately 49,810, so they have sufficient lot area for both units. The other requirement for a performance standard permit to be issued is that they have adequate area egress into the lot for both units. The lot is currently served by a circular driveway off of Santa Barbara Street, as well as a secondary access off of Padre Street, which would be access to their required off-street parking. The applicant is requesting relief of providing 2 uncovered parking spaces for each unit. They're providing 2 covered in what was formerly the 3-car garage in 1921. Due to the size and dimensions, you couldn't get a 3rd bay in there by today's standards. The 2 uncovered are going to be screened by an existing site wall. And that shows, I believe, in the pictures. Or is it a proposed site wall? I can't remember. Pictures are this way.
I have these ones too.
So there's a wall back here. I don't know if you can see it on the TV. And they're going to have a wall here, so it would be screened. Due to the location of the existing development, it would be difficult to locate a 2-car garage that would not impact the views and the site landscaping and create an impact to the historic resources. So therefore, they're requesting relief of that requirement. And I believe you have read this addendum and the findings by the historian as to why they feel that it would impact the historic resource. With that, staff recommends approval of the performance standard permit, as well as the modification to provide 2 covered and 2 uncovered parking spaces for the 2 residential units, subject to a condition of approval.
The walls. Well, this one here shows,
right here.
I was looking at, it doesn't seem,
Part of it's existing, but
this is existing, so this is the wall by the structure, and then this comes down.
This is standing here inside the lot looking towards
That way?
the street, and there's site walls to either side.
Oh, there's the driveway. I was like turning around looking, I know I saw one and it shows it here. So yeah, it goes on the back side.
Right.
Okay. That's why I was looking confused. I saw it. Sorry for interrupting you.
So I believe that you can approve the project making the findings outlined on page 3 of the staff report, subject to the condition identified in the staff report. And I don't know if the applicant has anything additional to add.
Okay. Would you like to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
Barbara Lowenthal, Harrison Design. And go ahead, Adele.
Liaison. Adele Goja, Harrison Design.
Anthony Grumbine, Harrison Design.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, just that both the city historian and the Landmarks Commission agreed with the historian's report with respect to the overall project, as well as the modification for the parking. And we're hoping that you agree with them, and so we can move forward with the project and get back to Landmarks and get them into the building department.
Okay, I do have one question in regards to the 2 uncovered parking spaces. It shows, colored concrete with sod banding and just a big area. Suzanne pointed in this area. How are you going to delineate where the uncovered spaces are?
The landscape architect is looking at that right now, and she's going to develop that. We're adding to the wall. If you,
This one here?
yes, that's part of the historic wall, and we're bringing it back to its original configuration so that it does, in fact, screen the parking. And she'll create a way of breaking between. That's not fully developed right now, obviously, and she will create those spaces when she does the final planting in between the concrete spacing.
So in terms of screening, maybe bring this wall back around, or
The
just what are
wall's
some
going
ideas?
back to its original configuration with added landscaping going in. That entire area will be landscaped. It isn't currently. Currently, it's asphalt. So that will aid in screening the cars from the street. And in fact, rarely will they be there. I mean, this is a young couple. But they wanted to provide the parking that was necessary, although Landmarks thought that we should be given relief from the additional parking altogether. So, because of the historic nature of the site.
I think maybe one thing to point out too is you're not seeing the change in topography from the
Oh,
street
right.
elevation
Yeah.
We
And
go
to
up.
Yeah.
to the
Suzanne, if you
existing
look.
elevation at this. I guess it's more for vehicular.
This kind of shows the driveway going up the.
Right.
Right. So this is really behind a wall, and this was already approved by the previous property owner and tenant as parking for the institution. And so we're trying to take advantage of this. This was already approved by the city as parking, and we'd like to use that for the uncovered for residential. There's still plenty of room to maneuver vehicles in and out of the 2-car garage, mostly because of its width. It's not wide enough to be qualified as a 3-car garage by today's standards, but it's a very generous 2-car
Yeah, this indicates
garage.
31 by 22.
Yeah. We tried, but
Yeah, okay. Then the other part that wasn't mentioned in the staff report, and just want to verify, since the existing building is over a property line, part of your project description is the merger.
right,
Lot merger, okay. Because it's not a condition or anything, but it is part of your project
right.
description.
No, we are doing that.
Okay. And then the last question I have is regarding the storage sheds that are on site. This one, patio storage, this is more substantial, taller. This one here indicates as existing. It's actually like a Sears metal storage shed that's 6 foot maximum. Is this proposed to be removed, or because this encroaches into the setback?
No one has asked us to remove it. It was on the site when the clients purchased the property. We've never asked them if they wanted to remove it. The other one is actually a historic part of the property.
Yeah, I saw this one in previous. It goes way back with the different CUPs.
So we
and
have
all
no
that.
idea when that storage shed went on the property, whether Fielding put it on or who put it on. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you for that because nobody's brought it up, and we haven't brought it up simply because it was on the property when they purchased it.
Okay, great, thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 2112 Santa Barbara Street? Seeing no one, we did receive a letter from Ms. Paula Westbury, probably expressing concerns with the project. You can look at mine if you want.
That's fine.
I'll close the public hearing. I did go out to the site and walked around, and I can't wait till the project's done. It's gonna
Thank
be
you.
great. In terms of the requests before me, before the staff hearing officer, in regards to the 2 covered and 2 uncovered parking spaces, the modification. I think it is an appropriate improvement for the lot. I agree with the Historic Structures report and the findings of the HLC. And given the existing development on site, there really isn't a place you can put covered parking to hide it. You can't put it back in this area because the property line goes up here. There's a garage. Given the existing topography and everything, there's just really no logical place to put it. So although on the site plan it looks like there's plenty other places you can put it, in reality, it just won't work with this layout and the historical significance of the site. So I feel that modification is supportable. In regards to the performance standard permit, like Suzanne said, it meets the minimum lot size for the 2 units. It is existing development. There are a lot of nonconformancies, like the distance between buildings, setbacks, that kind of stuff, but it's all existing situation. When it was originally constructed, it was constructed that way as the guest quarter, going back to residential uses in the residential zone. It makes it more conforming to the zone standards. So given all that, the performance standard permit is also supportable. But in regards to this metal storage shed, I would put a condition on that it be relocated out of the setbacks. It's such a size that it doesn't require a building permit, so it was probably something that was just built and put on there. So it can either be relocated or removed from the site. I think given the condition of it, it's all rusted, it's probably just something that would just be removed. But
That's fine.
so that would be a condition. Go ahead.
Speaking to that, because it's now going to be one lot, the combined square footage of both those storage sheds is probably over 200 square feet. Therefore, it would trigger a building permit.
Oh, at this time it would?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But in terms of your limitations on accessory space per the zoning ordinance, it wouldn't exceed that. It would still be under that. So, and then also now, back when this was put on, we didn't require building permits, but now we've worked with the building department. If this type of storage shed is put within the setbacks, it does require a building permit, just so we can look at it to make sure. And then, so I'd want to put that condition on there. And then also, I understand that the plans and landscaping, you're still working with the historian and with the Historic Landmarks Commission in regards to the parking, but I would like it delineated. So once you've come up with the final design, since I am giving you a modification to provide 2 uncovered, I want it delineated somehow on site so it's clear where it is. So I'd add those 2 conditions. And then staff is proposing, it's just more of an advisory, but a condition that with this approval that the previous CUP would become null and void. That if it wants to be reestablished as some other use, you need to go through the process. So it's more of an advisory, but it is. I saw your hand go up. Did you?
No, I was just going to say on the parking, you want it delineated in the field and on the plan set.
Yeah.
I only heard in the field, so.
Just making sure all my notes I covered. So with those 2 added conditions and the previous one that staff was proposing, I'd make the findings outlined in the staff report and approve the project. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. They also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if either of those were to occur, Suzanne would contact you. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure.
I think I'm next.
Okay. Next project is 120 Camino Alto.
And I am Steve House, architect, representing the clients Jane and Patrick Feely.
Okay, great.
The project site is approximately 28,500 square feet, and it's currently developed with a 2,533 square foot 2-story residence with a detached 2-car garage. The proposal includes an 87 square foot addition that will connect the garage to the residence and a reorientation of the roof above the existing garage. The existing garage is legally nonconforming to the required front setback as well as the interior setback. So when they reorient the pitch of the garage roof, and this may be more visible and maybe I need to use the pictures.
There is one that shows the existing angle and the proposed angle. I think it's shaded on here.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm sorry.
I remember seeing it.
So you can see dashed in lightly here, right where my fingers are, the existing roof form. So within that front setback, the reorientation of the roof, this ridge gets higher within the front setback, requiring a modification. So that is the modification that is presented to the staff hearing officer today. It's a front setback modification to allow alterations to the existing garage roof form, resulting in an increase in height within the required 35-foot front setback. Staff recommends approval of the project as submitted. The project was reviewed by the Single Family Design Board on July 15th, and the board found that the modification did not propose any issues with consistency related to the single-family residential design guidelines, nor did it pose any adverse impacts to the neighbors or the street. And it is proposed to simplify the roof form.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to add any additional comments?
Well, I guess just that the aesthetic benefit of it is that without this change to the orientation of the garage roof ridge, the addition which connects the detached garage to the house requires a flat roof solution. And so this allows the roofs to tie in better, as well as the most visible part of the garage is the gable end over the garage doors. And so that'll be mitigated by having a tile roof in your vision. And the entire house roof will be re-roofed with traditional two-piece clay tile. So it's going to be an overall improvement. The change in the front yard setback is barely visible from the street, nowhere near as much as the gable end that currently exists.
Okay.
So it's a major aesthetic improvement.
Great, thank you.
I guess I'd also add that this house replaced one that was lost in the Sycamore fire, and so at that time it conformed to the setbacks, and so it's only the fact that the zoning changed that it no longer conforms.
Okay, great, thanks. I don't think I have any questions. Is there anyone here in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 120 Camino Alto? No, seeing no one. I did receive a letter also from Ms. Paula Westbury for you. I don't know if you would like to look at mine.
No, that's okay.
So I'll close the public hearing. In regards to the modification that is before me, I really don't have any concerns regarding it. It is so minor in nature, and it's a small portion of the existing roof. This area here is also in the interior setback, but it's actually getting lower, so it doesn't require modification. So I think it is an appropriate improvement for the lot. It'll have minimum impacts off-site. Front yard setbacks are viewed with more scrutiny than the interior or the rear yard. If you ask for an open yard modification, that affects the property owner more than everybody else. But front yard setbacks more of a community neighborhood type issue. And given this existing situation with the house so far back from the street, you can kind of see the garage poking through. There's existing trees. The site dips down in topography. I think it's all appropriate. So I can make the findings outlined in the staff report, and I would like to add to them just for the clarification of why I believe it's appropriate. So like I said, I was thinking adding on the end, given the distance of the garage from the street, the existing topography and existing trees, there's no negative impacts to the streetscape or anticipated. Just to make it clear the reasoning why I think it's appropriate in this case. So with that addition to the findings, I approve your project, and staff's not proposing any conditions. I don't believe any are warranted for this project. So my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. They also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if that was to occur, Suzanne would contact you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sure. And our last item is 3122 State Street. Hi, good morning. Sorry. Anytime you're ready.
The project on this site is for alterations, including two new awnings for 3122 State Street. It's a 7,400 square foot lot with a 3,000 square foot non-residential building that is currently non-conforming to the required 10-foot front yard SD2 setback. The awning will encroach an additional 2 feet into the setback. And it is similar to proposals that we've seen further down the street on the north side of State Street, where many of the buildings are non-conforming to that front setback, and it's an established pattern of development. The applicant is requesting the awnings to shield windows, also provide a new area to identify their business. Their sign application will be reviewed separately by the sign committee at the ABR level. Staff is recommending approval of the project. It's consistent with the Upper State Street study design guidelines. It provides a pedestrian amenity that is consistent with the direction of that study. You can see in the aerial photography the pattern of development that demonstrates the pattern. And the project was reviewed by the Architectural Board of Review on June 24th and was forwarded to the staff hearing officer with some request to provide a clear detail of how it will be installed. They didn't have that clear information, but they felt that the awning was appropriate. I don't know if the applicant has anything additional to add.
Want to state your name for the record?
Yes, Lori Vivitzen, and I'm representing We Buy Gold and Jewelry, Alan Mazurkin is the manager.
Do you have anything additional to add?
No, it's in keeping with all the north side awnings that have been installed because of the lack of trees on the sidewalk. So they get that southerly exposure of the sun coming in all their businesses. So a lot of them want to defer the expense of having to put in air conditioning, but that doesn't really negate the glare that comes in as well.
Okay. I did have questions, but I think I answered them. This wasn't real clear in terms of how far the awnings would protrude past the roof overhang and the wall.
They're within the roof overhang.
They are. Because looking on this one here, it shows here's a roof overhang, and then here looks like the wall that comes out. And this photo here, you can see there's a wall.
Right.
So it looks like it
Oh,
protrudes
I see. Yeah.
like another foot.
Yeah, I was looking at actually at the wall
The
from
wall
the
part.
neighboring adjacent business.
Okay. When I did look back just recently, there was a project like in the last 6 months on 3100 State just down the way, and this awning is the exact same proportion. So that's what I was wondering in terms of looking at it, what the dimensions will be and how far it will stick out. But it's still going to be within the private property.
Right.
It's not going to overhang the right of way.
Yeah, and it's quite a wide sidewalk through that area too.
Okay. I think those are my questions for right now. I'd like to open the public hearing and seeing no one in the audience. I would like to state that I did receive a letter from Ms. Paula Westbury on the project, just expressing concerns with the application. So I'll close the public hearing. In regards to the awning, I think it's an appropriate improvement. I understand the necessity for it. I think the the addition of the awnings not in conflict with the zoning ordinance. I did have questions, or questions were brought up regarding the existing signage. There is some neon signs there that don't meet the ordinance requirement, but it's my understanding that you have a sign application pending before the sign committee, so that will be reviewed as part of that. And
Okay.
all-
Is it an open sign?
Yeah, there's an
The
open
neon?
side. There's two neon signs. One's open and one says something about gold.
Okay.
The open sign is allowed as long as it's not, the lettering 6 inches, and I think the total height's 12 inches. Yeah, there's some requirements, but that second neon sign is not allowed by the ordinance. So as part of the sign application and sign review, they'll be looking at
Okay.
that, and it'll have to be fixed prior to the certificate or the final sign-off of the permit. So,
Okay.
but that's not related to the awning. It's just something that was brought up in the review. So in regards to the awning, like I said, I think it is an appropriate improvement. It doesn't cause a negative impact to the streetscape. It is consistent with other ones that have been recently approved in that area. So I can make the findings outlined in the staff report. The staff's not proposing any conditions, and I don't believe any are warranted. The sign issue will be taken up, as part of the sign application. So I make the findings outlined in the staff report and approve your project. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days, and they also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day appeal period. And if that was to occur, Suzanne would contact you.
Okay.
Okay? Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I adjourn the meeting.
Till the break of day, yeah. Dear old Southland with this dreamy song.